Hi, my name is Simpane Powell. I'm a chartered MCIPD, fractional HR director, and formal global head of DE&I. I've worked across 16 countries over 25 years, and I'm here to challenge bad HR, the kind of HR that focuses on systems instead of people. I have led people through different scenarios, COVID, SARS, all of those things. And what I understand is founders need support, and today I'm meeting with Kylie Denk. Kylie is an employer branding expert. She is the person that gets your business to stand out against all the other businesses within your sector. And I'm so excited to get into it with her today. I am here today with a good friend, Kylie Denk, and we are going to be talking about employer branding and why it's so important for founders and startups and businesses that are expanding. Kylie is an employer brand and talent marketing leader with extensive experience building people first brands across recruitment, marketing, and just employer branding in general. She has worked with technology companies to shape authentic employee stories, strengthen talent attraction, and connect culture with business impact. She's known for her thoughtful and strategic approach, and I've had the pleasure of working with Kylie, and she brings a strong mix of storytelling, brand, and people expertise to every project. So, Kylie, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm so stoked to actually have this conversation with you because I've been waiting a
Yay.
long time for us to connect on this. And I've got so many questions and I'm going to try and get through as many as I can. So I wanted to start with walk me through what employer branding actually is in simple terms.
Yeah, so in a really simple way, I would say it's how people perceive your company as a workplace. That's pure and simple. It's a perception thing. So it's two audiences. It's your internal audience, your employees that you currently have. How
Right.
do they feel about working at your company? But it's also the external perception. So potential candidates, even your customers, your clients, how do they envision your company as a workplace as well? And it's that combined approach that really is your employer brand. And so a lot of people say if you don't define your employer brand, someone else will define it for you, people in terms of what their perception is.
Yeah.
Um, but in general, just think of it as how people see you as a workplace.
Which makes sense, right? And when you say other people defining it for you, we're talking about things like Trustpilot, Glassdoor, all of
Right.
those places can create a general perception of your business if you don't do that job first.
Absolutely. And even now, AI, all the chat GPTs of the world and other tools, people are starting to look up information about companies on those tools as
Right.
well. So absolutely, those review sites, everything will start telling the narrative for you if you don't also define it yourself.
Perfect. And then when people hear employer branding, what do they usually get completely wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of people think of employer branding as, oh, just talk about your culture and your perks and the fun stuff, and you're all good if you do that. And I think that's could be a little bit of it, but that's very broad. I think overall, when you think about employer branding, you really actually want it to be a strategic business function. It's not just kind of a nice to have, fun, fluffy thing. I would say this is really something that should help you attract and also retain really great talent to your organization. So overall, think about it more as not just culture and perks, but a targeted approach to finding really great talent, attracting them, and also retaining them. I think that would be a much better way to think about it than just the fun stuff. We do have some fun too, don't get me wrong, um, but yeah, a lot more than just culture posts and things like that.
Got you. So, like, if you had to break employer branding down into like three parts or three steps, what would they be for people so people can understand that if they're thinking about this?
Yeah. Well, I think about it with the marketing funnel just in general. You kind of have awareness at the top, and then more of your attraction and conversion in the middle, and then the retention piece towards the bottom. And the same thing is true for employer brand. It's just attracting talent versus customers or things there. Talent are your customers. So overall, I would say awareness is the biggest piece. Have people even heard of you first off? That's definitely a place to start. That's
Mhm.
where you can do more of your social media and other pieces, content creation,
Right.
events, things to gather people and get them interested and aware of who you are. Then you move into that conversion and attraction layer. So once they've heard of you, what do you have out there? What does your career page look like? Your website? How do they know what you stand for and other pieces of content, things like that, that could really attract them and cause action? So, what would make them apply? What would make them join your talent community or other pieces there? And then the
Mhm.
retention piece. So, once they do join, what would make them a really great employee? Will they stay a while? Also, you hope they will refer others to your business, other great talent. So, that's a big piece with retention. And if you have a strong employer brand, you should be putting out something that will attract the right people, and then you hopefully have a better chance of them staying longer because you promised on what you delivered or delivered on your promise.
Yeah.
There we go.
Delivered on your
Up
promises.
front.
That's it.
I will just say too, retention goes beyond just your current employees. Think about it from the candidate perspective as well, because you have
Right.
a lot of folks that might be great talent for the future, that just didn't get this specific job that could be a great word of mouth for you as well. So you might want to
Mhm.
retain them in your talent community or have them just be a great referral for their friends that might be looking for a job. So definitely don't discount, retention in terms of candidates as well for the future.
And I think that's so important. I've had several conversations in the last 2 weeks with candidates. I'm recruiting for a role at the moment, and the feedback that keeps coming back is the fact that they take time out of their day to prepare research for an interview.
Right.
They might go through several iterations and meet with different people, maybe answer the same question like 6 times because there's no real process in place. And then the company just goes dead silent. They just go missing. So in the end, they get no feedback. They chase, they chase, they chase. And then there's no understanding as to why they didn't get the role or if the role even existed in the first place. And that's exactly what you're talking about with that retention thing,
Yeah.
right? Because what happens is that ripples, they go and speak to other people that and tell them like, this is my experience of this company, this business. It's a
Yes.
big thing.
Your candidate experience is a huge, huge piece of your employer reputation. It truly is. It's not just those that work for you, it's also those that experience your brand in any
Yeah.
touch point, whether they've spoken with you or not, right? It's what they hear from their network, what they're seeing that you're putting out there from a content perspective. I mean, there's so many pieces to it. And then absolutely their interview experience if they get to that point as well.
Yeah.
So really something to be aware of. Yeah.
Definitely. It leads me into my next question as to why employer branding is so important in today's hiring market. I know that people think that it's like a buyer's market at the moment because there are so many people that are out of work and looking for jobs, but an effort definitely still does need to be made, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's your differentiator. So think there's so many companies in the world. I mean, I don't know, trillions, right? But
Mhm.
it's really what makes you different. What makes you worth choosing? Because even though there might be lots of people looking for a job right now, they still have to make that choice to join you as well. It's a two-way street. And I think sometimes in companies we forget that when we're the ones doing the interviewing, that we just assume everyone will want our job. That's not the case. And a lot of times you're finding passive talent. I think about a
Right.
lot of the tech roles that I've been part of recruiting in the past, and those folks are not always looking for jobs. They might have tons of offers in front of them, but
Yeah.
people in other organizations as well. Sales, it doesn't matter what department you're in, but in general, your employer brand is going to be your differentiator, why they should choose you. And you really want that to be authentic and honest, because if you're misguiding someone as they're looking at your job postings, they're interviewing, then they join, there's that where that retention problem comes up again. Then they're like, this is not what I heard in my job interview and when the company sold me. So it really helps with that, not just the attraction piece in terms of why you're a great place to work, but also then having them really feel confident in the company they've joined once they're there as well. So it's your differentiator. It's why people join. It's hopefully why they will also stay in a lot of
Yeah.
ways when you match those things up as well.
And when you think about it, how does a strong employer brand change the quality of the candidates that you see coming through?
Oh, yes. I love this question because your employer brand should not attract everyone. If it's
Hmm.
too broad, it's not
Yeah.
going to be a great brand. That's one of the biggest things I see with companies. If you can have your value proposition statement and it applies to 50 other companies, it's not unique enough.
Hmm.
So, what you need to do is really hone in on who is your target audience. What do they care about? You're not hiring everyone. You might be hiring a few kind of groups of people in terms of tech or if it's sales or whatever it may be. You need to hone in on what they care about and then match that with what you can offer as well. And you have to be honest about that. If
Yeah.
you're a company that is very ambitious and you move fast and there's a lot of change, you should say that on your website because a lot of candidates might not connect with that, but the right ones will. And so that's where this helps in terms of attracting the right talent. If you actually are honest in the messaging you put out there, the right people who value those things will want to join you. And
Hmm.
then that often helps you be a lot more efficient just in your hiring. You don't
Right.
necessarily have the flood of applicants, you have the right applicants. So, better time for your recruitment team to look through those applications and just generally can help you reduce your time to fill and things like that as well. But I would say,
Mhm.
really, when you have that strong message up front, that's
Yeah.
what's going to help you in terms of attracting the right people and more quickly.
It's a little bit like Simon Sinek, start with the why. Because, like,
Yeah.
if you're very clear with the why behind your message, why your company exists,
Yes.
um, you will attract the people that resonate with that. They're going to want to be
Yes.
there and they're going to make that effort. So it definitely makes sense. So I know we're going to have a few people that are watching this thinking, right, well, I've just started my business or I don't have a massive budget. Like,
Yeah.
so can a company have a great employer brand without like a massive budget or spending lots of money?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Actually, a lot of the places I've worked, we didn't necessarily have any budget or much at all to work with. You
Hmm.
absolutely can have a great employer brand without that. Part of it's just really creating authentic content about your business. And
Yeah.
a lot of that times it could be social media content, blog content, but even having testimonials from your employees. I mean, that's content that you have that you don't have to pay for. So
Right.
as long as you provide that great work environment and you have employees that are willing to work with you on sharing more about who they are, why they like working at your company, what their day to day is like, things like that. Generally, that can do really well. And I would argue almost better than really highly produced videos and things of
I
that nature
agree.
because it feels more real and genuine when it's just more of a quick video filmed on your phone or, something that's not overly edited. So in general, I really don't think you need a huge budget for it at all. Absolutely, there are tools out there and things as you grow your brand you can lean into, but you really can do a lot and even more authentically without much budget, if any. So definitely, I would not worry about that piece.
Okay. And that makes sense because you said you don't want it to look like a production because it's inauthentic at that point. People are like, well, no, they have that radar that goes off to say like, no, this doesn't feel right. This can't be
Yeah.
it.
It's like a car dealership. You don't like, you walk into a car dealership and you're like, oh my gosh, like, and you don't always want to hear it from the salespeople. Like, you want to hear it
Yeah,
from your friend who just bought their car that this
that's
is a
it.
good product, And the same thing with the company. It's like, who's my referral? Who do I trust?
I love it.
There's a time and a place for production and things like that, of course, too. But
Got
um,
you.
and
That
generally,
makes
you
sense.
don't need that big budget.
So if a startup wanted to compete with big brands for talent, but they didn't have the salaries to match, how would employer branding put them in front of those people? How would it make those people join?
I think that's a great question. A lot of people do care about salary. It is important, to some level, but in general, it's more about what you can offer as a company. So you may be able to offer a lot more in terms of professional development and growth opportunities, making an impact, really having true ownership of your career because there's more room for impact there. You're not just a number, things like that at this organization. So think about what are the things that you do offer that again are more differentiators for you, and I do believe that will attract the right people as well. You don't necessarily want to just tout big salaries. That's what you're going to get in terms of attracting talent that's just looking for that. If you share that you can really grow your career here, you're making an impact, you'll see what you're working on into fruition, that matters to a lot of people, and those are the people that you want working for you anyway, right? So,
Yeah.
I think it's really just about that clear, consistent messaging again, to share that, and now there are a lot of folks doing salary transparency as well, legally and whatnot, but, in general, I think you can if you can tell a really good story about why you're a great place to work, and if there's other benefits that also help that, flexibility, other benefits you offer employees. I mean, there's lots of ways to tell that story, that I think will attract the right people, not just people
Got you.
chasing a big number.
Got you. And I think it's very true of the fact that it's a two-way street when it comes to interviewing. Like, people forget that it is a two-way street, that you are
It
entitled
is.
to interview the company at the same time. Like, look into what the employer branding has built, ask the questions about the culture. As you said, if real people are recording videos, like, connect in with those people, you can access them
Yeah,
via LinkedIn. It's all of those things. It's a two-way street. The employer branding opens that door to give insight, a snapshot into who this business is, how they run,
yeah.
the culture, what the leadership's like. You can ask those questions, you can see into. I
It's
think a lot of people forget that.
Well, and my favorite thing too is, asking what's great about the culture, what you like, but also what could the company improve on right now, in your
Right.
opinion? And that could be a really telling piece of information as well. You're not likely going to get anything too crazy in terms of it's an
Yeah.
interview, they work at the company, but I think it's really telling in terms of if you connect with the areas that need improvement. If you are okay with that as a candidate, I mean, that's huge. So definitely, I agree. It's a two-way street.
It's amazing. So I had a question for you, because obviously we're talking about how we help the businesses. We're going across what employer branding is. We're going into all that stuff. But my question is, what pulled you into employer branding? What made you say, yes, this is what makes me smile. This is what makes me happy. This is my passion.
Yeah. Truly, I have a communications degree. I worked in events and recruitment a little bit and marketing when I came out of college. My second job, I was at a tech company and I did more recruitment and events as well. And I attended a conference. We had great professional development there. And that's where I learned that employer branding was truly a career path. I knew there was some sort of marketing behind, attracting
Yeah.
talent, but I didn't realize it truly rolls around that. And so I did learn that. I ended up doing a couple of certificates with my professional development to learn more about what employer branding was, how you go about it. And I truly asked my manager at that company if, he'd be willing to let me pursue that more in my career there and
Right.
why it would be impactful for the business. And I was very lucky. He said yes. So truly
Perfect.
that led into now over a decade of focus on employer brand work. And it's just the perfect merge of communication, marketing, recruitment, all the pieces that I really enjoy. So
Yeah.
I was just so happy to find it. And I will say the community of employer branders is really excellent, just tons of knowledge sharing. Everyone's very friendly. And it's just been a great place to grow my career.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So thinking about the 10 years where you've been stuck in, and kudos to that manager that supported you, because I'm
Yes,
the
I
same. Like,
agree. We
I
still
took
stay in touch. Yeah.
that's it. You take a
Yeah.
complete career change. Like, they see something in you that you might not necessarily see in yourself, and then they work hard to make sure that you achieve what they can see, which is absolutely amazing. So
Yeah.
when you think back over your career to date, when you think about, is there a moment that made you realize that employer branding has a real and significant, like, business impact? Like, I love my job, but oh my gosh, this has happened because of what I do.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 examples. One is more so based on new hire survey data, which is something I always would advocate for in your company, gathering information from your new hires, because those are the folks that were qualified that you ended up hiring. So we always ask, "Why did you join the company?" We ask how you heard about us, other things, but the big one, why you joined the company, and they had a couple reasons they could choose. But the top reason, pretty consistently, was what I heard from my network, the
Right.
reputation of the
Yeah.
company. And that is absolutely shaped by employer brand in terms of all those review sites, employee referrals, just the content you're putting out there about your company and the experience other candidates have had. It all connects back to really that reputation. So that made me very proud to have that consistently show up as a reason people were choosing our company.
Hmm.
The other piece, a little bit more tactical, was a paid LinkedIn campaign we did to attract engineers. And this campaign, there was some money behind it, but we attracted 550 applicants and had 10 offers go out in a fairly
Wow.
short time period. And that cost was far less than if we would have worked with an agency, let's say,
Right.
or something else. And so just all of those pieces, that was a more direct, like, campaign to hire initiative. But it really showed me as well how much that can impact direct, influence on a candidate to join us. So two very
Okay.
different examples, but I would say those two things I'm very proud of. And along with that, just telling the stories of the people at the company. I love like doing
Yeah.
a spotlight about someone in particular, and then you share it on social media, and everyone's commenting, and they're just lifting that person up and saying what a great colleague they are. And I just think that's really great. We don't always hear that enough. So
I love
those
that.
pieces I just think are excellent as well.
I absolutely love that. So if you think about how you work, how employer branding works, like, and we think about the startups and the founders that are maybe watching this, or people that have had a business for a while but never realized that this is a key and critical thing that can help them grow their business. Like, what, I mean, you've mentioned some stuff, but what is one low cost action like a founder or a HR team can make to make the company more attractive to the candidates or the people that are coming through? You know?
Yeah, I would really say look at the 3 pieces of the funnel we talked about. So the awareness, do they know who
Mhm.
you are? The conversion, attraction piece, and the retention, and figure out first off where your biggest pain point is. So if
Yeah.
it's attraction and awareness, okay, let's do that first. If it's more the engagement, okay, that's a piece to work on. So really identify where that is. Then one thing you can do in terms of awareness, I always look at the employer value proposition. Have you ever done a talent competitor analysis and looked at your main talent competitors and what is their messaging and what are they doing on social media? Is it the same thing you're doing? Are you differentiated enough? Like really get real with yourself and see if you have a differentiated promise to those who might work for you. That's a great one. So just assessing your messaging. The other pieces in terms of attraction, have you been doing events? What's your email messaging look like? What do your job posts look like? A lot of
Right.
times they are a million miles long and that is
Right.
not necessarily going to be read or something. So just take an honest look at those little pieces that you could even just edit and make that a little bit smoother. And then retention piece as well. Do you have an employee advocacy program? These are little things, and even an alumni program, perhaps things you can do from the retention aspect. Make sure you're looking and working with your HR team for those pulse survey results and really getting a good feel on how the
Mhm.
business feels about your workplace. um, those are a couple examples of things I think you could start with, but all things that you
Okay.
can do even free of cost and just yourself.
It makes perfect sense. So if we think about what you've just said, if you had to walk into a business now and it's starting from scratch, like what would be the first 90 days look like if you were like they came to you and said, Kylie, we can't attract candidates, we're not keeping staff, like
Yeah,
we know we've got an issue somewhere, like help us, help us, help us, because we have a backlog of work that needs to be delivered, like, and we need these people in the door right now.
yeah,
What would you plan for the 90 days to help address those problems, and who would you work with?
absolutely. I think the first thing I would do is listen. The first couple of weeks, you are on a listening spree, talking to your
Yeah.
stakeholders in HR, absolutely from the business perspective, business partners, executives, and then also talent acquisition team members to hear where the candidate gaps, what are they missing in terms of needing to sell that candidate, close that candidate, what information is missing on the website, just really listening to them. The business partners more for that internal peak and what are the pain points of the business, because when you're thinking about setting up your messaging, you do need to be honest, but you also want to think about what are the good things we want to promote, and then be honest about like what are the things we're working on, and just really
Yeah.
hone in on like what those things are. So you need to know what the business is like and what it's like to work for. And executives as well. I think you want to hear from them. What are the outcomes they're looking for? That's huge. If they're looking for an outcome like a new career page, and you spend all your time just interviewing, folks throughout the business and making social media, well, you're
Completely miss.
misaligned, right? So absolutely, I'd say those are some of your stakeholders, and also stakeholders where you're attracting the most talent. So whether that's some engineering leaders, sales, operational folks, like learning more about them as well. So a listening spree is what I do first. Um, After that, it's really that employer value proposition, whether you have one and you need to build it, or you're reassessing and maybe rebranding yourself, making some edits to your current one. I think that's a good place to start. And that's usually part of employee surveys, which you might already have in place, focus groups with more employees, not just your stakeholders. And then that talent competitor analysis is the other piece I typically start with as well. Get
Yeah.
all that data together and propose, here's your employer value proposition. Here's a couple of messaging pillars, and everything you do going forward from that is grounded in that messaging framework. This is not replacing your overarching brand. This is a
Yeah.
complement to that. And I would say a piece underneath the umbrella. It's almost as if you have a product brand for
Right.
the different pieces you offer. This is just another piece of that, just towards talent.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's the biggest thing. Listen, and then really formulate what is your messaging framework. So going forward with all the more exciting, fun things you get to do, you have that in place for everything going forward.
That makes sense. And like, if people, quick question. So you
Yeah.
mentioned employer value proposition a few
Yes.
times. So
Yes.
some people will be like, "What?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is." So
Sure. Yeah.
can you break down, like high level breakdown, what that is, so people kind of understand why they
Yes.
need that within the pillars?
Yes, it is honestly your couple of sentences that is the promise that you are making to potential employees and also your current employees. This
Right.
is what it's like to work here. Just a few sentences around what it is like, why you should join, those kind of things. So it's really just that overarching vision you have for your employer brand and for employees working for your company. And it's rooted in truth as well. And then you
Mhm.
have some messaging pillars that describe that even further, then that go into that a little bit. I like a 3 pillar approach, but you can do
Yeah.
4. You don't want 10 pillars, but you can really do probably 3 to 4, I would say, messaging pillars underneath that, then to then describe it. Is it about flexibility? Is it about being ambitious? What are you about? And it's not your core values. A lot of people, I think, believe it's your
Model
company
them.
core values.
Mhm.
Those all tie into it as well. But this is more, again, what it's like to work for us and what you'll get out of it as an employee. Um, so I would make that differentiator there. But
I love
overall,
that.
that's what I would say your employer value proposition is. You often have it in a business as a value prop for your business itself, for the services you're providing.
Right.
So this is just taking that and applying it to your workforce and what you're able to do there.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So I know that you are rejigging, looking at your business, how you're doing stuff. So
Yeah.
do you want to share some information about that and how people can potentially contact you if they need some support or help, or they want some more information on EVP and employer branding?
Yes, absolutely. This is 100% my passion. I love doing this and just helping other people. So, if you have even just a challenge you're going through related to talent branding or branding in general, really, I'm more than happy to help with that. So you can contact me, Kylie Denk, on LinkedIn. Just message me, connect with me. I'm more than happy to chat that way. Or truehavenbranding@gmail.com is my email. We'll put that uh,
Yeah,
in
we'll
the
share that
questions here as
definitely.
well. But even just project work or fractional work, I'm very open to both. I can help you with lots of different challenges, whether it's messaging, even advising on your current kind of employer brand practices if you have some of that going for you already. Um, but very, very willing to help. So absolutely. Would love to chat. And the first, I always chat with people for 30 minutes just to get to know you more.
Yeah,
And that is completely free. See if it would be a good fit to work together and can share more about myself as well. But would love to chat. So, yes, thank you for the
I love that.
opportunity.
Definitely reach out. As said, Kylie and I have worked together before, and we did some amazing projects together, and we got some great feedback that
Yeah.
came out of it. So I will share all of Kylie's contact details, so you will be able to reach out to her. Kylie, thank you so much for taking the
Yes.
time to speak with me today about this topic. I find it so interesting, and I think a lot of people will, because they don't realize the correlation between what you do and the impact
Yes.
that it has in market to those candidates. As you said, like, some jobs are very, very easy to fill. It really doesn't matter. But when you are after people that are in a niche role, have a niche talent, and they have the pick of companies, this is what differentiates your business to others. That employer
Yes.
branding, how you speak to people, how you attract them, what you show them, goes so, so far. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing all of that insight and information. It's so,
Yeah.
so helpful.
Well, one more thing if I can add too
Yeah, of
is
course.
even if you're not hiring a lot or you're kind of on a you did hire a lot, now you're pulling back, I think one of the biggest mistakes a company can make is not focusing on branding when they're not hiring a lot. That's
Right,
the time you almost want to focus on it the most because then by the time you all of a sudden have a big sprint and you're hiring, you're not ready and you're building employer brand when you really need to be at the fast attractions point. So
right.
really build even in the quiet moments is what I absolutely want to recommend to anyone who's thinking about this. That's going to be your game changer, I think, when you're doing that, and then when you're hiring very quickly, you'll be ready. So, absolutely something to think about.
I absolutely love that. Thank you so, so much
Of
for
course.
spending the time. I've been so excited to do this one because it
Yes,
is.
me
It's so
too.
insightful. It's absolutely amazing. So we will post the video. We'll turn the comments on. Um, Kylie will be tagged in the video on YouTube. So if you have questions, please post them and we'll make
Yes,
sure Kylie gets them. You can
yes.
connect. She can answer the questions for you. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. So fun. Thank you.
Perfect.